LA gang leader, described by police as a thrill killer, is headed for death row at San Quentin.
You are sentenced to death.
Timothy McGee was evil, egotistical, sociopathic, no remorse, totally callous, and extremely cruel.
Los Angeles has seen plenty of dangerous figures, but few sent shockwaves through the city quite like Timothy Joseph McGee, the man people came to call the monster of Atwater.
He was a 5-star psychopathic killer.
He killed for sport. He enjoyed doing, it was a high for him to go out and kill somebody.
The Los Angeles Times even listed him among California's top 20 most notorious criminals, with reports linking him to multiple homicides and several other violent incidents. His name carried serious weight far beyond Atwater Village, echoing through every corner of LA's underworld. Even the hip-hop community couldn't avoid the chaos tied to his name. One night during a heated street conflict, McGee allegedly opened fire near Kurupt and dashed Dillinger, and that same night, tragedy struck when Big U's brother lost his life. That incident cemented McGee's infamy in LA's street history: unpredictable, feared, and unrelenting. Born on April 27, 1973, Timothy Joseph McGee grew up right in the middle of East Los Angeles, surrounded by street culture. His father, who was of Scottish descent, left early on, and McGee leaned into his Mexican-American roots and the rough neighborhoods that shaped him. The streets became his teacher, and survival was his only lesson. As a teen, McGee earned 2 nicknames: Güero for his lighter complexion and Eskimo. But he wasn't just hanging around the scene, he was making himself known. He repped Tunaville Reefer 13, TVR 13, and quickly built a reputation for being bold, unpredictable, and someone nobody wanted to cross. His criminal path started early and escalated fast. At just 16 years old in 1989, McGee fired a weapon into a crowd, injuring a man and earning time in juvenile detention. That moment marked the beginning of a violent pattern that would define his name for years to come. By 1993, he was in trouble again, this time for assaulting a police officer. But it was the mid to late 90s when McGee transformed from a typical street figure to one of the most feared names in Los Angeles' gang history.
He killed for sport. He enjoyed doing, it was a high for him to go out and kill somebody.
His reputation wasn't built through talk, it was built through intimidation and chaos. By 1997, things reached a breaking point. In one shocking case, McGee reportedly chased down 2 rival members, Juan and Pedro, through the streets of Atwater. Juan was left permanently injured, and Pedro barely escaped. That event showed just how dangerous and unstable McGee had become. That same year, investigators say McGee committed one of his most cold-blooded crimes. His victim, Ronnie from the Frogtown Riffer, crossed his paths with him and didn't survive the encounter. Witnesses claimed McGee made Ronnie show his tattoos to confirm his affiliations before firing multiple shots. It was methodical and emotionless, a glimpse into how detached McGee had become.
Buddy.
According to the coroner, he was shot 26 separate times.
Now that's a whole different level of cold callousness.
By the year 2000, the violence escalated again. McGee no longer limited his targets to rival gangs. Anyone could be in danger. One night, he allegedly ended the life of 17-year-old Marty Robles Jr., a high school student simply sketching near the LA River. Moments later, he took another man's life, believing he had seen too much. Afterwards, McGee reportedly turned to his friend and said he was hungry and wanted food, as if nothing had happened. That eerie calm showed how far gone he really was. McGee didn't run Tunaville Riffer 13 like a typical street crew. He treated it like a military operation. His members trained together, followed strict drills, and even conducted surveillance in their neighborhood. They had lookouts stationed at key entry points, equipped with radios to monitor cars and report anything suspicious. Under McGee, Atwater Village became a fortress, and he ruled it through fear. He even monitored police radio scanners, always staying a step ahead. On July 4th, McGee and his crew reportedly staged an ambush by blocking a street to slow down an approaching patrol car, and when officers arrived, shots were fired. A holiday meant for fireworks turned into a night of chaos and fear.
The person with the bicycle threw the bicycle into the street. The police car then had to swerve around that.
And that's where the gunfire ensued.
Between 2000 and 2001, Timothy McGee's actions began to look less like street crime and more like urban warfare. In June 2000, investigators say McGee targeted 16-year-old Ryan Gonzalez over something shockingly petty. They happened to share the same street nickname, Wio, also known as Huero. In McGee's mind, there could only be one.
There was room for only one widow in Atwater village. That was the sole reason that he executed Ryan Gonzalez.
That moment showed just how inflated his ego had become. Pride turned into something deadly. Later that same year, his aggression shifted towards law enforcement. Detectives believe he arranged a deliberate setup meant to lure LAPD officers deep into Tunaville territory, where his crew opened fire on their vehicle.
McGee also opened fire on police officers during an ambush, but they weren't hurt.
It was no longer about rival crews. McGee was now challenging the city itself. But the most disturbing event linked to him came on August 8, 2001, what authorities called the Whitkiss family murders. Investigators reported that McGee forced his way into Cherry Whitkiss's home, convinced she had informed police about his drug trade. What followed was tragedy. Cherry, her mother, and a neighbor visiting the home were all killed. None of them were involved in gang life. They were innocent people caught in his paranoia. And if that wasn't horrifying enough, detectives say just 2 days later, McGee acted again, allegedly trying to silence potential witnesses. By then, it was clear he wasn't just another gang member. He was a man completely lost in his own delusions of power. McGee's spiral didn't even spare those closest to him. He allegedly turned on a close friend, Christina Duran, someone he had once trusted. It was her birthday, but rumors spread that she had recently cooperated with police. Instead of walking away, McGee reportedly ended her life that night. That moment revealed how far gone he was. His violence had no boundaries, reaching beyond gang politics and into the lives of people who never imagined being targets. When investigators later searched McGee's hideouts, they discovered notebooks in his handwriting, pages filled with rap lyrics and dark boasts about his crimes. He taunted witness protection programs and warned that informants wouldn't make it to court. It was as if he believed his own legend, seeing himself as a larger-than-life villain straight out of a movie.
McGee always felt that he was an aspiring rapper. He was always writing.
A lot of them had to do with the killings that he did.
At the same time, Los Angeles was witnessing a collision between the gang world and the rap industry. The heart of it all, Atwater Village, sat quietly between the LA River and Glendale. On the surface, it seemed peaceful, a light industrial neighborhood that didn't look like a hotspot for gang activity. But by 1999, it was completely under McGee's control. Under his leadership, Tunaville Reefer 13 evolved into a more structured and disciplined organization, less street chaos, more military precision. That intensity eventually crossed paths with the music scene. On October 17th, close to 11:40 p.m., a late-night recording session had just wrapped. Kurupt had finished laying down a verse while Daz Dillinger managed the studio. Also present were Death Row affiliates Javon the Realist Jones, whose voice resembled Tupac's, and Willard Active Food Givers. Providing security that night was 23-year-old Dwayne Draws Dupree, known for keeping order and making sure everyone stayed safe. The crew stepped onto the patio for a break, believing Atwater Village was neutral ground, a place where nobody would dare start trouble with high-profile artists around. That illusion shattered in seconds. Two figures appeared out of the darkness, silent, masked, and ready. Without a word, they opened fire on the patio. Glass shattered, alarms blared, and the studio filled with panic. It wasn't random. Investigators said it was a coordinated ambush, timed and planned. What was supposed to be a smooth night in the studio turned into a moment of pure chaos that would forever link the world of hip-hop with one of Los Angeles' most dangerous criminals. Within seconds, that calm smoke break turned into complete chaos. What had been an easy studio night suddenly felt like a war zone. Kurupt and Daz Dillinger reacted on instinct, diving for cover behind planters and sound gear as gunfire broke the still night air. Concrete splintered nearby, debris flew everywhere, yet almost miraculously neither of them was hit. Others weren't so fortunate. Javon the Realist Jones was injured in the foot, while Willard Active Food Givers went down after being struck in the leg. And then came the devastating blow. Dwayne Draws Dupree, the man trusted to keep everyone safe, was caught directly in the attack. He collapsed on the patio as the shooting continued before the assailants slipped back into the shadows of Atwater Village. Moments later, sirens filled the night as officers and paramedics swarmed the scene. Shell casings covered the ground, windows were shattered, and stunned onlookers struggled to process what had just happened. Emergency crews fought to save lives, but for 23-year-old Dwayne Dupree, the effort came too late. His loss hit both the streets and the music community hard. The protector had become the victim.
He was killed by a guy named Timothy Joseph McGee, aka the Monster of Atwater. Draws was the bodyguard for Kurupt at the time, and he was shot and killed in 1999 outside a music studio.
At first, the media and police thought the incident might be linked to one of Kurupt's diss tracks, where he had called out other artists like DMX and The Firm. Back then, rap rivalry sometimes spilled over into real-world tension, so that theory seemed to make sense. But when investigators looked closer, the pieces didn't fit. The motive pointed somewhere far darker. Detectives eventually concluded this wasn't about music at all. It matched Timothy McGee's usual pattern.
Yeah, because they say the shooters allegedly, their first story was they came through on the bikes, so they was thinking some Rough Rider stuff.
They suspected the attack was about territorial control and possibly even racial tension. To McGee, seeing a group of mostly black men on his crew's turf late at night might have looked like outsiders crossing into restricted ground. Combined with his obsession over protecting Atwater Village like a combat zone, the ambush fit his mindset perfectly. The tragedy deepened once police realized who Dwayne Dupree really was, the younger brother of Eugene Big U Henley Jr., one of the most respected figures connected to the rolling 60s neighborhood Crips, a major Los Angeles organization. On the other side stood McGee, the self-proclaimed leader of Tunaville Reefer 13, a Suriano gang rooted in Mexican-American street culture. Dupree's death symbolized a collision between two powerful worlds, Black Crip influence versus Latino Suriano strength, the kind of clash that could have shaken the entire city. Yet investigators believe McGee had no idea Dupree was. There was no sign he intended to challenge Big U or spark a gang war. It was simply McGee acting out his paranoia, targeting anyone he thought didn't belong. His violence was random, obsessive, and driven by control, not strategy. In truth, Dupree was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, standing in a neighborhood ruled by the wrong man. His death showed exactly how far McGee's need for domination had gone. Ordinary nights could turn catastrophic under his reign. By 2002, McGee's rampage had reached a breaking point. Law enforcement had had enough. The LAPD, working with federal agents, created a massive joint task force to bring him down once and for all. The hunt for the monster of Atwater had officially begun, and this time, Los Angeles was determined to end the nightmare.
The U.S. Marshals, LAPD put together a task force dedicated to finding McGee.
He was one of our most wanted individuals.
Catching Timothy McGee became one of the most frustrating pursuits in Los Angeles history. The man was like a ghost. He never stayed in one place for long, constantly moving between Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and cities throughout Arizona. Every time authorities thought they had him surrounded, he vanished again. It was almost like he could sense the heat before it even arrived. Each narrow escape only added to his legend and made him more feared. But in a twist of irony, McGee wasn't taken down by a high-tech investigation or a dramatic police chase. It was television that ended his run. In February 2003, his face appeared on America's Most Wanted, airing alongside the widely publicized Elizabeth Smart case. Millions of people across the country were watching that night, and one sharp-eyed viewer in Bullhead City, Arizona, recognized the quiet man living in a nearby mobile home. Without hesitation, they picked up the phone and made a call that would change everything.
That tip went straight to the Joint Law Enforcement Task Force assigned to McGee's case. Less than 24 hours later, on February 12, 2003, a SWAT team moved in. They were ready for anything. A standoff, a chase, even an armed confrontation. After all, they were dealing with someone known for violence. But when the moment came, Everyone was caught off guard. McGee simply walked out of his mobile home with his hands raised, surrendering without resistance. No chaos, no fight, just silence. What really stunned officers wasn't his calm demeanor, but the shirt he was wearing. Across the front, it read, "Fugitive, can't see me." Even in that moment, surrounded by armed officers, McGee couldn't resist making a statement. When they cuffed him, he didn't look angry or afraid. He smirked. That same cold grin stayed fixed on his face, like he was still in control even with handcuffs on. It was unsettling, almost as if he viewed the whole thing as a game. For the next 5 years, McGee sat in custody waiting for trial, and that attitude never changed.
35-year-old Timothy McGee, seen smiling and laughing during the sentencing hearing, was convicted in October of 2007 of killing 2 gang rivals and a woman. One of the victims was shot 28 times.
The prosecution, led by Deputy District Attorney Hoon Chun, laid out the story piece by piece.
When his case finally went to court in 2007, the atmosphere was electric and tense. Reporters filled the courtroom, ready to watch the downfall of a man once called the Monster of Atwater. Inside, the air felt heavy. Witnesses had to be escorted under tight security, protected at every step. Some shook uncontrollably while testifying. One even broke down completely and couldn't continue. Another witness, a man left paralyzed from an earlier incident, locked eyes with McGee on the stand, then suddenly claimed he didn't remember who shot him anymore. The fear in that room was undeniable, and through it all, McGee remained eerily calm. Sitting at the defense table, he wore that same haunting smile, occasionally glancing at the victims' families or the prosecutors as if nothing could touch him. To McGee, the trial didn't seem like justice. It seemed like a show, a stage built around his own legend. But the prosecution, led by Deputy District Attorney Hoon Chun, was ready. Chun meticulously broke down McGee's story, piece by piece, stripping away the myth to reveal the truth. He connected McGee to the murder of 16-year-old Ryan Gonzalez, which investigators said started over something as petty as a shared nickname. Then came the link to Ronnie Martin's killing, and finally to the high-profile death of Dwayne "Draws" Dupree, the crime that tied McGee's name directly to the Los Angeles hip-hop scene. Each piece of evidence pushed McGee's legend closer to collapse and showed the world that even the most feared man in Atwater wasn't untouchable after all. As if the trial hadn't already revealed enough, the prosecution saved its most chilling evidence for last: McGee's own handwritten notebooks. Inside were pages filled with gang-style rap lyrics where he appeared to brag about violence, mock witness protection, and threaten anyone who dared to speak against him. When Deputy District Attorney Hoon Chun presented those pages, the courtroom went silent. It wasn't just evidence, it was a glimpse into the mind of someone who believed fear was fame. To the world, Timothy McGee was no longer just a gang member gone rogue. He had become something darker. He wasn't driven by money or territory anymore. He acted out of ego and control, believing every act of violence built his legend. But just when it looked like the case was locked down and headed for an easy conviction, the courtroom took a turn no one expected. During jury deliberations, tension erupted. One juror, known only as Juror X, refused to go along with the majority. She questioned the credibility of several witnesses, many of whom were former gang members or individuals with their own legal troubles. Her skepticism divided the room, frustrating other jurors who felt she wasn't cooperating. That's when Judge Perry made a critical move, one that would come back years later. He decided to remove Juror X and replace her with an alternate. At the time, it seemed like a simple solution to keep the trial moving, but it would become the technical flaw that changed everything. Once the replacement stepped in, the deliberations ended almost immediately. The jury returned a unanimous verdict, finding McGee guilty of 3 murders, including the high-profile killing of Dwayne "Draws" Dupree, and they recommended the death penalty. The so-called Monster of Atwater was officially caged. McGee was sent to San Quentin State Prison, one of the most notorious facilities in America.
A notorious LA gang leader described by police as a thrill killer is headed for death row at San Quentin.
You are sentenced to death.
For nearly 2 decades, he sat on death row, locked down under the highest level of security. But even there, trouble followed him. In 2005, McGee was involved in a major prison riot, an incident so serious that it added another 75 years to life on top of his existing sentence.
He leads a riot.
He was running a tier of jail cells.
He starts yelling for other inmates to attack the guards. He starts telling them to throw things at the guards. At one point, he's even telling them to break the porcelain sinks in their cell so they can get makeshift weapons.
It seemed like even behind bars, chaos never stopped surrounding his name. Then, in April 2025, something few could have predicted happened. The California Supreme Court overturned all of McGee's murder convictions, but it wasn't because he was proven innocent or because new evidence cleared him. Instead, it came down to a procedural violation connected to that same dismissed juror. The court ruled that juror number 5, the woman removed during deliberations, had every right to express doubt. Her questions about unreliable witnesses were reasonable, not rebellious. Many of the testimonies had come from individuals with criminal ties or possible motives to cooperate with law enforcement. The court acknowledged that gang-related cases are often clouded by fear, intimidation, and silence, and removing that juror violated McGee's right to a fair trial. With that ruling, the murder convictions were officially vacated, wiped clean on paper. But that didn't mean McGee was walking free. He remains behind bars, still serving multiple consecutive life sentences, including that 75 years to life term from the 2005 prison riot. Even without the death penalty, Timothy McGee will never leave prison walls. His story is a haunting reminder of how power, paranoia, and violence can completely consume a person, twisting them into something unrecognizable. It also shows how complicated justice can be, and how even the most dangerous individuals sometimes slip through the cracks of the legal system. But in the end, one thing's certain: the streets of Los Angeles no longer belong to Timothy McGee. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment below. What do you think? Was justice truly served, or did the monster of Atwater manage to score one last win against the system?